one of the major problems we have today is, I guess, self-choosing and self-replicating institutions. You heard that we don't have chief rabbis right now? Israel's out of chief rabbis because the chief rabbis have a term, 10-year term that expired. Before the term expires, they're supposed to have official elections. Hold on a second. Before the term expires, they're supposed to have elections. But for whatever political reasons, the rabbinate did not have elections. So no chief rabbis were chosen because of politics. So now there are no official chief rabbis. But there are certain positions that need to be filled, like the heads of the Bati Dinim who are already in there. I think it's Rabbi Igra. Rabbi Igra, if you might not remember, Rabbi Roja. It is him who is the head of Hever Kadisha, the national head of the Hever Kadisha. Who I met. He's a very interesting fellow. Speaks English quite well, also because he was on Shlichut. And he's an expert in halacha. So now they have two positions that are critical. We don't have chief rabbis. So basically, well, so here's the problem. The rabbinate was one of these self-choosing institutions, but the rabbinate had the problems that Rabbi Soloveitchik foresaw, in that it had the ire of certain people and the jealousy. Why? Because it's closed. In what way is it a boys' club, a self-choosing group? It's open only basically to the Orthodox, right? It takes only Orthodox males who have studied Talmud. If you're not Orthodox, or you're not a male, or you're not into Talmud, you're to, wokeism, why can't you be a rabbi also? In America, they allow women who do not care much about actual Judaism and are not Talmud scholars in any way to take the title rabbi and even run houses of worship that are considered Jewish, right? Yes, so that's so why can't you have lady reform rabbi take up a government job as, let's say, town rabbi here in the state of Israel? So they were always upset about the Rabbanut. And secular people were upset that the Rabbanut can dictate to them how they get married or if they should get married and other things, right? The Rabbanut has certain powers. So even though the Rabbanut was this self-replicating organization, you can only get access to the Rabbanut and climb the ladder if you do what? You're one of them, right? You have to pass their tests, right? Yeah. They're not going to allow some secular guy to start coming in and making changes from within. So the Rabbanut had a certain corruption, at least in the eyes of all the people who were outside the Rabbanut, because it has a self-choosing, self-replicating system, right, from their own. But it also is upsetting people. And there was the other side. There was the Haradite infiltration of the Rabbanut. The Haradite community officially didn't subscribe to Rabbanut. That's what they have. The Eda Haredis, the Badats, was founded in response, in reaction to the founding of the Rabbanut by the British, the mandatory officials. They didn't want to hold of this British institution. They wanted to continue doing things, at least in their way of thinking, which is the Gullus way, but still there is a certain, traditionalist way of doing it. That's why the Badat started. So they took over the Rabbanut. That was already in the 1990s with the appointment of Rabbi Metzger and Rabbi Yashiv's plan to do so, Torah Yoshna, which really upset Rabbi Bar-Hayim and others. So, what? Why? You can see what he has to say about that. It was basically trying to, instead of having the chief rabbi be someone of stature who can actually, I guess, take his own positions and lead from at least a non-Haredi point of view, one that sees that Am Yisrael has made progress. I'm not saying I'm a statist or a Zionist in any way of that sort, but at least someone who can realize that we're getting somewhere. The official Haredi view is that nothing's changed with the founding of the state of Israel. Jewish history hasn't progressed in any way, which is wrong, But if you officially have a Haredi rabbi who is by no means the most qualified man for the job, and he's only there in order to be a puppet of rabbis who do not subscribe to the whole Rabbanut, so that's a problem. And that's what they already did. So it's been infiltrated by, it was usurped by Haredi actors, and now it's been basically made obsolete by the seculars and the anti-religious who don't want the Rabbanut. Part of the problem that went into this is not having elections is there are political people who wanted that the governing body, the selecting body of the chief rabbis, the ones who get the vote, should have a few women on it. and also, I guess, religious diversity. Why should it only be Orthodox people who make this decision? Make sense? Yeah, well, it doesn't make sense to you, but it's like why didn't the Tzid have to close the yeshiva, the Volozhin yeshiva? Because the Mosrim got the Russian authorities to start picking on the yeshiva. They're basically saying, oh, it's an institute of higher learning, so you have to have, so and so hours of, Russian core curricula being studied, right? That's going to destroy yeshiva by telling them they have to start learning Tchaikovsky and mathematics and things like that, right? A little bit of political science and whatever else the Russians wanted them to learn, the Tsarist Russians wanted them to learn. It was basically a way to destroy whatever the yeshiva had going, right? If the yeshiva become a university, great. It's either that or close the yeshiva. So then see, he made his decision. So now the Rabbanut has this problem. And yeah, by the way, how do you get into the Rabbanut? This is one thing that was recognized as one of the good things the Rabbanut does across the board. How do you get smicha?
You have to learn the tests.
Yeah, the Rabbanut tests in halacha were considered the gold standard in smicha, by the way, right? Yeah. That's true. That's across the board. Everybody did that. At least that was one thing they're doing right. Now saying that was upsetting people. It's like, oh, you can only become a dayan and be recognized as a dayan in all the cities if you pass the Rabbanut's dayan's test. What about our dayanim? It was discriminatory to the non-Orthodox, basically. And also this whole thing, it's only men. So that was a problem. Okay, so they I
think it's really a problem.
No, that's what they perceived as a problem. My point was, this was a boys' club, and it was self-selecting, and people criticized it. And by noticing, it's like, this is something that the Orthodox have, it's their monopoly. And it is a check on the rest of Israeli society. So now it has been brought even lower, if not completely down, by those who want to see it destroyed. Okay? And correspondingly, we have the judiciary, especially the Supreme Court. The judiciary in Israel is what? Self-selecting. It's a self-selecting group also. It's a boys' club. Attempts at judicial reform, right? So that somehow there's a democratic process that the will of the people or their representatives have a say in the selection of justices. No, that can't happen. We'd rather destroy the country, the people who have this monopoly, we'd rather destroy the country than lose their monopoly on this judiciary. In order to climb the ladder, go up in the ranks within the types of people from whom the chief justices are chosen, you have to be part of their club. And by the way, where else do you see this? The military. The military is full of nice religious guys, right? But having them, there's a glass ceiling. The Samerit, as they call it, the high command is populated only by people who are like them, no admission. And when this monopoly was challenged, or at least even they perceive that there's a challenge to their monopoly, what happens? They destroy everything. They threaten, and they're going to make sure that they're the people who are not them are not going to come in. And like the Rabbanut, they're not vulnerable in this case. And what other institutions in the state are like that? Well, there's quite a few that you can now see. Like, oh yeah, it's just a self-selecting group, and they don't want to lose it. Even certain political groups are like that.